Apocalypse Diary, Day 5. Status update. Water, electric, gas, internet, still on. Still got plenty of food. Still sitting pretty. Everybody's alive. So today, I get to talk about Resident Evil 3 Remake. Man, that game is good. The game is real good. I'm a little less than 5 hours in at this point. I think I might already be 3/4 of the way through the game. But, whew, that game is 9 kinds of bonkers, man. So, in Resident Evil 2 Remake, the plot was a bit more sedate. It was a bit more of a slow burn. But Resident Evil 3 Remake, whew, man, it is balls to the walls action from the get-go. Like, the intro sequence goes from like 0 to 60 real fucking quick. And it doesn't take a break very often. But the pace is not overwhelming. It's like I was telling Noodle and Jimbo Slice the other day about Doom Eternal. That game goes from 0 to 100 and just like doesn't fucking stop ever, period. So like if I'm gonna go for like the distance running metaphor, I would say that Doom 2016 is a 100-meter sprint. It starts and then it stops, and it gives you a break, and it starts again, stops again, gives you a break. Doom Eternal is the 10-kilometer run which you have to run at a sprint. I'm just, like, I don't know, maybe I'm just too old at this point to maintain that kind of pace, but Resident Evil 3 Remake is like, it's the perfect pacing. It's like doing the mile run. It's like, you go for a good bit of time, but then you stop, everything cools down for a minute, there's some puzzle solving, some exploration, you can stop and read some like text files and shit, and then it starts again, and it goes and it goes and it goes and it goes and it goes, and then it stops again, and then you get another break. It's very, very action-oriented. It's got intense chase sequences with Nemesis. It's got like a straight-up Indiana Jones, like, run from the rolling boulder kind of sequence. And then you, like, get the Carlos sections where it's like, it's not, like, it's more actiony than Jill because the Carlos sequences give you, like, a lot of ammo and they want you to go ham on, like, everything, just mow down all the zombies in your way. It's a lot of fun. It's just a really, really good game. It's not as open world as I would say the original Resident Evil was. It's been pretty linear outside of like the first 2 hours or so, where you're in like the downtown Raccoon area and you gotta find like the bolt cutters and the lockpick, and that allows you to open up various other stuff, and there's like a completely optional puzzle that you have to solve, or don't have to solve, you can solve right at the beginning of the game that involves you using the lockpicks and the bolt cutters to backtrack to places where you've already been, but you missed certain items because you didn't have the bolt cutters or the lockpicks, and you can get those things and it awards you with some nice bonus items. There's an upgrade for your shotgun and an upgrade for your inventory space that you can completely miss if you just choose to ignore this one particular puzzle right at the beginning of the game. But once you get past that point, and you get past the subway segment, you get to like the clock tower area, where it's pretty much a straight shot from train crash to boss fight with Nemesis to Jill being infected, which is where you then switch over to Carlos again, and he has to run through the hospital to get the vaccine for Jill, and then once you get Jill cured, Carlos leaves to go do some stuff, and then Jill gets to go through the hospital also, because she's equipped with a lockpick, so she can get some of the stuff that Carlos was, doesn't have the lockpicks, so he missed it. It's very cool, and the characters both play very, very differently. Jill's fragile, doesn't have a lot of health, but she's got a pretty good dodge once you figure out how to use it. I don't know, I haven't figured out the timing for the perfect dodge, which is where you like dodge at the last second, and you get like this little slow-mo action sequence, which gives you like a lot of time to like aim at the zombie's head, or if you're wielding the knife, you like dodge with the knife, and then you like an uppercut, which puts the zombie into like a knockdown state, where you can then knife him again. I don't know, it's frustrating the fact that I can't figure out properly what the timing is to get the perfect dodge, because if you can perfect the perfect dodge, then, like, single zombies are essentially cannon fodder at that point. You can easily take out a single zombie with just the knife. I don't know. Yeah, that's the one thing that frustrates me about the game, is not being able to figure out the timing for the perfect dodge. But then Carlos, on the other hand, Carlos is slower than Jill, but he's also tanky as fuck. I think he might have like twice as much life as Jill does. And he doesn't have a dodge, he has an actual melee counter, which is slightly easier to use than Jill's dodge. I don't know, it fucks with me a little bit, because to get Carlos's melee counter, where he like starts with a shoulder check and then a punch, which is a guaranteed knockdown on a zombie, and I think on some other monsters too. I got it to work once against one of the hunter betas in the hospital. But yeah, no, Carlos's melee counterattack's really cool, because it makes it even easier to take on enemies with a knife. Despite the fact that you really don't need to, because Carlos is loaded with just stupid amounts of assault rifle ammo, and if you're careful with Carlos and you like take slow, methodical headshots with the assault rifle, like by the time you get to the end of the Carlos segments, you will have just a fuck ton of assault rifle ammo. It's pretty damn cool. And Nemesis, man, Nemesis is terrifying. Like he's really more of a nuisance at the beginning of the game. Like, you can run from him easily. He just shows up at very inopportune times, and he actually now has the ability to, like, infect other zombies with the Nemesis parasite and basically have them turn into those tentacly-headed fuckers from Resident Evil 4, the Plaga guys. That's really annoying, and he gets a little bit worse when he gets the rocket launcher. Although the rocket launcher is really easy to dodge, like, because you don't deal with, like, the pre-rendered backgrounds anymore. You can, like, you actually have to, like, manually maintain where you want your camera to be. So they gave the rocket launcher a laser sight. First it starts out orange, which means Nemesis is still, like, trying to aim and get a lock on you, but when it turns red, he, like, stays in place. So if you see the laser turn red and then dodge out of the way, it's super easy to avoid Nemesis's missiles. And, a nice little throwback to the original game, if you actually fight Nemesis when you don't have to, and you deal a certain amount of damage to him, he actually drops item crates, which have, so far I found upgrade parts to your starting pistol, and a box of shotgun shells. I'm pretty sure he drops more stuff, I don't have the equipment to deal with him at the moment, which I'm hoping I unlock some cool goodies when I complete the game. But then he mutates into his second form, and good God, his second form is terrifying. It's also not that particularly hard to deal with. He loses, like, most of his ranged options, but he becomes, like, this very animalistic kind of thing, like, almost kind of shaped like a giant dog, but with, like, fins and spikes and shit on him. And he gets way more mobile, but if you keep an eye on him, he telegraphs most of his shit pretty well. And I'm assuming he's gonna have a Form 3 that I'm gonna have to deal with here very soon once I'm done with my Apocalypse Diary. But all in all, I am having an absolute blast with Resident Evil 3 Remake. It's so good. Like, it's just, like I said, it's just the proper amount of fast pacing in this game. And, like, the new mechanics, like the dodge mechanics, are really cool. I've been stockpiling gunpowder because lessons learned from Resident Evil 2, and I'm preparing to convert all of that into ammo to dump into the final form of Nemesis that I'm probably going to end up fighting here soon. Yeah, no, I'll give my finalized thoughts on Resident Evil 3 probably tomorrow, because I think I'm gonna complete my first run through here pretty damn quick. I think, like, another hour or two at the most. I think I'll have completed my first run of the game, so that'll put my total playtime at probably somewhere between 7 and 8 hours, which for a Resident Evil game it's not terrible. It's not like the 20 plus hours it took me and Noodle to get through all of Resident Evil 6. I'm glad they've shortened the story a little bit. The only other thing of note that's happened in the last day is I started watching a show called Motherland, Fort Salem on Hulu. It's a show that takes place in an alternate timeline of America where witches had like I don't want to say real powers because I'm pretty sure that witches can actually do shit, but like in this universe it is confirmed that witches can do things like summon storms, raise the dead, all that kind of good stuff. So instead of getting like hunted down and killed, Salem witch trials and all that, they actually signed on to like to the U.S. Constitution or something like that. So guaranteeing that as long as witches agreed to act in the service of the U.S. military in like wartime and shit like that, the witches would no longer be hunted down and like burned at the stake and shit. It's really cool. It's they haven't focused too terribly much on like the magic side yet. Like I'm only 3 episodes in. It's really more about the characters at this point. But like the U.S. military witches are like trying to track down these people called the Spree, which are a bunch of witches that have been causing like mass suicides and shit like that, like all over the world. They're just being real fucks about it. And it's these 3 characters. There's Rael, Abigail, and Tally. So the first one to meet, Rael, she's not a happy camper, to say the least. Her mom was killed in combat fairly close to the start of the show, and she's obviously, I mean, she lost her mom, so she's having issues with that. So she decides to sign on with the military just because she figures, like, yeah, like, my life sucks, I'll get deployed to the front lines, I'll get blown up, and fuck it, that'll be the end of my life. So she's really depressed. Tally is, like, this very happy-go-lucky girl who joined the military because she honestly believes that stopping the Spree is, like, the right thing to do, despite the fact that her mom had worked out a deal with the government. Like, four of her mom's sisters had been killed in combat, which was taking a toll on her family, and because witch powers are passed down hereditarily from, like, mother to daughter, and I guess mother to son, because it just got confirmed that there's also male witches in this universe. I don't know, whatever. So the U.S. government was like, okay, like, look, the war has taken, obviously, a huge toll on your family. We don't need to, like, we don't want your line to go extinct. So, like, you and your daughter don't have to serve in the military. You get a special dispensation that, like, you don't have to serve. Well, Tally decides to join anyway because she wants to stop the Spree, because the Spree is killing a lot of people, and that's a very bad thing. And so she's the one who's having, like, the most trouble dealing with military life, because she had a pretty good life before joining the military. She, like, lived in an all-female compound of witches. They, like, did their own farming. They protected their own. They really wanted for nothing. It was just a good life that she left behind. So she's dealing with that shit. And then Abigail is one of the daughters of, fuck. I'm forgetting her last name. Yeah, I spaced it. I spaced her family name, but her family is, like, very famous. Like, her ancestor was, like, one of the first to, like, sign on to the witchy constitution to fight in the military, and rose to a very prominent position, and, like, all the members of her family have always held, like, very high rank in the military. So she joins up because it's expected of her, and she thinks she's got her whole future on a plate, thinks she's better than everyone else, and so her character arc is that she has to deal with Rael and Tally, and, like, she gets taken down a couple of pegs, and, like, is starting to realize really what a bitch she's been to her teammates. And one of the big points of this military training camp they went to, Fort Salem, is that, like, you either succeed or you fail as a unit. So it's really been more about these 3 characters having to, like, learn to work together, like, overcome their differences, and you find out in, like, episode 2, I think, that Rael's mom actually was killed while under the command of Abigail's mom, so they have, like, this hatred relationship that they're trying really hard to get over. They're in that phase where, like, okay, like, we can respect each other and we'll work together, but we're never gonna be friends. It's really, it's actually a really good show. I didn't really know what I was expecting going into it, Like, I got that disclaimer, it's like, this show contains scenes of, like, nudity and violence, and I'm thinking, like, oh, motherfucker, here we go, another Game of Thrones situation, alright. It hasn't been that. It's, like, there's been very suggestive shit, like, you know, these two characters, they're totally boning, like, hardcore, but they don't actually show it, which, I mean, probably because of the fact that the three main characters are teenage girls is probably why they're not showing it, but still, I'm glad they didn't go the Game of Thrones route where it's just like, yeah, tits, ass, dick everywhere. No, they've kept that on the down low, but like there's been some violent shit though, like, you know, people getting killed by awful witch curses and shit. It's not pretty, but yeah, Motherland, Fort Salem. I'm hooked. I'm interested. I want to see where this series is gonna go. There's only 3 episodes right now, and I need to actually finish episode 3 to see how that ends. But yeah, Fort Salem, Motherland, Fort Salem. It's on Hulu. Sorry about that sudden jump cut, but my iPad chose just then to inform me that I was running out of room on my iPad's hard drive. So I had to take a quick second to delete some shit. Sorry about that. But that was about wrapping it up for this Apocalypse Diary Day 5 anyway. So, thank you for tuning in and watching. Hope you enjoyed it. And I'll see you tomorrow. Have a nice day.